with what they had. And it was an enjoyable game despite all the streaming stuff, which now we can kind of dive into and discuss. So I think there's a few things we can get out of the way first. Obviously, the quality of the stream last night was porous, to say the least. The audio, I don't know about you, the audio for me was out for the entirety of the first half. I think it came back at one point, in which case I just turned it off and just decided, this is actually I think I'm just kind of enjoying this. I'm just going to keep it off. No disrespect to Marcus Holman, or I don't know who was calling the game with him. I just know Marcus Holman was on commentary. I got nothing against Marcus Holman. Obviously, a tremendous player. He's been on I've listened to him on commentary before, and he's been I've had no issues with him. The commentary was I literally didn't have it for the first half, and I was like, you know what, I'm fine with this. So when I realized it was back, I was just I'm just going to keep it like this.
So the second time I used my user quote, my team's on the field.
So we had to use a workaround because I think it was either one Friday on the Isle website or by the teams didn't work. So we tweeted out the workaround that we had to get to use it. It's bad. The Lax TV, whatever it might be with the CAA, this has been bad for a very long time. Last year, I think Stony Brook broadcasted a game against Penn State through this service, and I'm almost certain that the game was being broadcasted through the press box because I could see when they would pan out, I could see the corner of the window.
I was just the glare.
I think I could actually see the window. Maybe I think I could see the window itself. It was snowing and stuff, but it's a bad service. They don't get paid for it, to our knowledge. There's no money coming through, so how exactly anyone's making money off this is anybody's guess.
Because Towson used to do the Tiger TV.
Towson TV, I believe.
Towson TV, and it was decent. I mean, I thought it was I think it was on par with the NEC Front Row, which again, it's not ESPNU or the Big Ten Network, but it was reliable. I had a lot less buffering and interruptions. The announcing, whatever, just some sophomore, journalism major or someone who's into broadcasting or something. Yeah, and they're doing their job. They're into it for the most part. And it was free. It's just you just go there. Here's the link. Bang. It's just open. I guess it's got to be the schools are saving money from having to do it themselves. Or they're not getting money, and then the streamers are somehow getting maybe ads. Yeah, there were ads throughout. So
that might be it. Or is it a deal with the conference? Is it the conference is getting ads somehow through it? That might be. I can't imagine the Towson itself, if, as you said, if they can. I mean, maybe if they're getting some money from it, I suppose they'd rather do this. But I mean, why would you not want the students to do it if do this instead when it's not anywhere near as good? And the bad publicity, again, for, as we talk about, where's the money coming from and what money is being coming from the ads? I don't know. A deal through the conference is what would make, I suppose, most sense. Yeah, it's confusing. It's been bad for a couple years. Before this, I think CAA games were broadcasted through Lacrosse Sports Network when Lacrosse Sports Network was still kind of a thing. And That you had to pay for, and the stream was okay. It wasn't great, but like it was when the Crosse Sports Network was kind of fully up and operational. It was fine. Again, you had to pay for it, but it was all right. Since the Crosse Sports Network has kind of gone under, and now it's turned to this kind of like Lax TV, whatever it is. It's pretty bad. You'll run into any number of possible errors, buffering, the actual quality of it itself. It's in like 140 FPS times. There's been times where you won't even get the actual game that it's on. You could log into it and it's a totally different game. So it's any number of possible errors. That's bad. And yes, look, it's free, but still, it's bad. And this is something. The way that this happened for what was this is not anything new, but this happening for a top 20 game with Johns Hopkins is a little different than it happening for a CAA game against Hampton or something else.
Yeah, it was the Ferrari in the hood meme, with like the great,
So this sparked a lot of, I saw talk, especially this morning throughout today, of the state of kind of like lacrosse streaming. And I saw people talking, things, just kind of people talking about how much worse things are compared to maybe how they used to be. Sort of like things have kind of slid backwards compared to the 2010s. What happened to how things, games being on ESPNU or games being on ESPN Plus. How has this happened? So on and so forth. And it feels like people are kind of taking this game and kind of projecting it overall and kind of feeling like the overall state of like lacrosse streaming is in a bad place and that things are worse than maybe they used to be. Or the availability of games is worse than it used to be, or the quality is worse than it used to be. And I think that the quality may seem that the quality today may seem like it's worse than it was maybe 10 years ago, or maybe even 5 or 6 years ago. The reason for that is, I would say, is because probably in some ways maybe you're actually watching more games. That's because the availability has increased considerably. In actuality, there are more games available on streaming for college lacrosse right now than there ever have been. As far as TV goes, that's a broader conversation. Within the last 5, 6, 7 years, the availability of games is pretty similar. Within the last 10 years, that gets into a little different. But that's also just, a conversation for television's in a much different place. And you also can ask, is the number of games on television being the same as it is compared to 2017 or 2018 a good thing? I don't know. But it hasn't really changed. It's basically the same. But I kind of wanted to do a segment on this and provide some actual hard sort of data in comparisons, just to kind of illuminate things. And also, to be fair, make some, criticisms of the way that where there should be, because there are things that people are frustrated about out there with streaming that I do think they are fair to be frustrated about. I don't think people are wrong to be frustrated about these things. So let's dive into some of these. So to start with, I pulled up. Well, actually, you know what? I'll dive in first. I'll acknowledge some of the criticisms that people have out there first. We'll do with that. So a lot of the criticisms that people have revolve around one, the most criticized, I would say, streaming service out there for lacrosse right now, which is Flow TV, which before was, I think last year charged how much for?
$150.
Yeah, how much was it a month?
It was just you pay $150. It's like a year thing. And then I always hated doing it every year. I mean, back we could deduct it still, but you still have to put it on the credit card.
Yeah, and now I think they charge you $30 a month this year.
Yeah, this is for. I think we still have it for the rest of February, but this was at the end of the month was when I was supposed to renew, and I was like, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, we don't do the Patreon now, so the tax write-off is off the table, and
now we're really doing it for the love of the game.
$30 a month is, listen, $30 a month is insanity. I'm sorry, $30 a month for a lacrosse subscription service is just, what are we doing here? And the quality that Flow puts out is not worth $30 a month. Is it better than Lax TV? Yes, but I have had numerous issues at times watching on Flow. I've had buffering. I've had the stream go out. I've had crash. Can you have multiple people watch on one account on Flow? I
think so. I remember a couple Georgetown games. Maybe we were both.
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, that's a big part of it, So, yeah, but $30. It's not. It's a decent quality product. It's okay. The quality is okay. What I'm paying for in general for college lacrosse streaming service is not something I'd consider paying $30 a month or whatever for, or even if I'm paying $30 a month for their entire inventory, your entire inventory is not worth $30 a month. And the college lacrosse portion of it, I'm getting just the Big East, and I love the Big East, but I'm not paying $30 a month for that. So, no, not doing that. People are 100% right to feel aggrieved about this. If you want to pay for that, I don't blame you. BTM Plus is another one that's often gets knocked around a bit. BTM Plus, what is the current price on BTM Plus?
I think we just pay $60.
So I would say, I think for lacrosse, I think simply if you're offering for just lacrosse, I think $10, $9.99 a month is probably what it should be at max that. I think anything more, I think we're getting excessive here. So I think pricing BTN is probably too much. And I think I tweeted out one thing, I like the graphics or whatever, and someone had a reply that was, a little snarky, and fair enough. But, look, my tweet out was simply, I thought, they've done was better this year. Obviously, people are frustrated with what's happened in the past, and that is fair because the quality in the past has been poor on some of these. For football schools, Big Ten qualifies here, ACC qualifies here. Some of there's others here. I think there should be a minimum standard of expectation. You need a shot clock on the bug. You need a game clock. You need the score bug should work at all times. I'm not saying there can never be glitches. It happens. Things happen. But 1 to 2 a game. And again, shot clock, game clock, all times. Ohio State, I think I watched their game. They didn't have the shot clock on there. The shot clock's got to be on there. It's inexcusable. It's got to be on there.
It really is. It's given, especially how much the announcers are mentioning it. And it's just it feels like that Lord of the Rings meme where he tries to ask Gandalf, and Gandalf won't answer. He's like, "Oh, you keep your secrets." So they're like, "Oh, shot clock's running down." I'm like, "Well, how? What is it at?" Like I wish I could see
I'm like moving my head to like see and find the shot clock within the camera.
Yeah,
like
exactly. You just flying the camera. You see it in the corner.
like, come on, it's your Ohio State. Put the shot clock on the scoreboard. Do it. Simple. Michigan at times, like
they did
just
for a while.
There's the bet.
Didn't they also not have the score for a little while? And I made a joke. I was like, "Oh, man, that's probably to make people stay and watch, and so they could see the score." And you're like, "Steve, it's not 1983, and this is not NFL on CBS." So you're like, people are not going to wait there just to see the score. When they're doing this live stats, I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
I can just look up on my phone. I've kind of come back your way on that a little bit now. I was going through. I've been going through old scorebugs now. It's like the old. Which one is it? Some of those old NFL on. There's one NFL on CBS one, or I'm like, man, that's it. The one they had when Gumbel was calling the games. Man, that one's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tweet so you'll know it. I'm like, that's score. That's it, man.
That was it. That's when we were a country. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't need to put the clock on. Just give me the name. I don't need the down either. Just
It was just the field. You just saw it.
Montana to Rice, first down. There we go. That's it.
No first line. Nothing.
Just the ref. Just the ref. Oh man, they should try this weekend. Just see how it feels. So, again, I get how there is a frustration, and I think some people are right to feel aggrieved with some of these things, 100%. And there's some things that need to be improved. It goes the same way with the. We'll get to it. I tweeted out. In a couple weeks. There's like 5 or 6 great games, and they all face off at 12 or 1 o'clock. And we've been doing this for years. And again, I've heard the reasons why. It's like, that's awesome, man. I'm trying to watch the games, and the sport would okay. What is the sport trying to move here, have upward mobility, or because if not, okay, things get moved around for other sports. For lacrosse, they don't. So I understand jobs are hard. I get that. But there's flexibility for other sports. And if there's not for lacrosse, that obviously indicates where lacrosse is in the pecking order, and that's fine. But I think obviously there are people who would like for that to be different. And there needs to be more if I think people also would like to be, what is, I think also for lacrosse fans, I think there is an indication of like what needs to happen for it to be different. Is it simply just more people need to watch the games? All right, maybe that, but I mean, that's a tough, it's a tough thing to do. And that also feels just difficult in the TV landscape the way it is today. It's like, oh man, just go have more people watch the games when less people watch television than ever before. Do people need to kind of campaign for this? Like, is it social media? Like, do they need to hear it from fans? Or is this something that is above actual fans on the is it just there needs to be more voices for lacrosse within these actual, where these decisions get made. And that's kind of what it feels like for me. And it doesn't actually feel like there's people who really advocate for it as much where these decisions get made, to be honest.
Is weather one of the reasons always pushed back? Because I'm like,
what do you mean?
At noon, because at least for the early season, like that's the most sunlight, and like having a 4:00 game on, in early February, just too cold. We all remember the Navy Hopkins night game that caused such an uproar because the NFL was like ashamed to have it that early and at night when only I think like 300 people were in attendance or something. A lot of people watched it online, I think, but I was wondering if that was it, because like that's when a lot of sunlight, the still at least somewhat warm from the sun being there instead of like dusk or something like that. But
it's the time of year that lacrosse plays all plays into this to a degree. There was Carolina, Michigan looked like it was going to be at 3:00 on ACC Network. And then I think there's a basketball game that time. And now the game's at noon. So starting the season in February when you're running into basketball and then obviously conference tournament basketball, that doesn't help with TV, certainly, in terms of availability. And then, as you mentioned, weather, I think that does play a role. The first month, yes, I do. I think that's, I do. Yeah, I think that's certainly, nobody wants to play night games, and night games in February aren't really a possibility as much. Now, I think part of the, I think sometimes our pushback with that is nobody plays a bunch of night games in April either. I think we'd like to see more of those later in the season too. But certainly, you can't play You can't play night games in. And look, I'm not advocating for night games in February either. I'm like, I just can we do
2-3 o'clock? That seems feasible, especially
or even can we do 12:30?
Oh, stagger.
Can we stagger 12:30, 1:30?
I love that.
2? Can we do 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock? Yeah, like you said, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and Quint, I think, mentioned this. Play Sunday.
Yeah,
2 teams are playing Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, and it all gets. There's so much in this. No one wants to play midweek games anymore. No one wants to play. Nobody wants the season to go later into recruiting in June. No one wants to push it back. Everyone's like, "Oh, we can't push it back." Seemingly, the recruiting. No one really wants the recruiting calendar to be super disruptive. The coaches, least. There's just so much inertia right now with the way the calendar is working. And there's so many conversations that we have about like, oh, we need to create more TV windows for the games and for the sport, like more of these primetime, TV windows. And I'm like, and we need more spotlights for the sport, and we need to play in better weather. And I'm like, guys, we've been having these same conversations for I don't know how many years. Like, is there any actual movement on this stuff? Like, who's having these conversations? Like, are we just having these conversations amongst ourselves? Or is anyone having these conversations with the power stockbrokers that need this stuff to happen? Or are we just like talking into the wind? It's just, you hear this from the commentators that announce the games, or you'll hear this from countless media members that talk to these people And then it's just like, all right, well, it's just bizarre to me, like that we say all this stuff as if like it's like people just talk past each other. It's like, okay, someone go say this to like the people that matter. And like, can someone table like an actual? They change the face-off rules like every 2 years, but no one can table an actual change. At least come forth with a possible change to, I don't know, a universal start date. I'm not even saying it has to happen, but
have a discussion.
Yes, or like here on the calendar, we are going to make a proposal for a universal start date. The coach or there's, this is what we're going to do. We are going to, there's going to be a committee, maybe, coaches. There will be a proposal to address, like there's a proposal made. This committee will address it. Universal start date. But instead, it's like, I mean, like everything's so, I mean, and again, I mean, it's look, Tillman rules that rules committee like with a dang iron fists. I mean, they get shit done. Like, can we get something with anything else moving? It's like everything else, people just make they just shout out suggestions, and it's like, all right, cool. I guess I hear you.
It feels like we need like a Lacrosse convention, like a constitution convention, where like it's not just rules that are discussed, but like other aspects of the game.
Yeah. It feels like the only thing in Lacrosse that ever actually gets like has gotten like moving in the last. What was aside from that was like early? When was the early recruiting thing?
It's when we were all together. So after Hopkins Final Four, feels like 2019.
I think they announced it earlier than that, though.
Let's see. 2017 was when the rules starting. They probably announced it like a year prior, but yeah. 2017, NCAA prohibited early recruiting in college lacrosse on September 1st of that year, student athlete junior year. So you could only start in junior year, starting the 2017.
Yeah, the D1 Council. Like that's 8 years ago. I mean, it's insane. I don't know. So anyway, we kind of got sidetracked here. But I wanted to give on this an idea of the way things used to look and how scattered streaming used to kind of show it. In terms of availability, streaming today is as good as it possibly could be in terms of availability with streaming. So to do this, I'm going to go back to this idea. This is the College Crosse. This is a big board from March 3rd, 2018. To do this, I'm going to share my screen. And this is from the there we go. So this is collegecrosse.com. I heard that was a good website.
One of the best.
So this is the old College Crosse big board. This is from March 3rd, 2018.
Look how elegant it is. Just
simple. Everything you need. One spot.
What you need exactly in one place.
What a time to be alive. When men were men. So we're going to go through here. I want you guys, you can count along with us. How many different streams you would have to access if you wanted to watch games? And this is 7 years ago. Carolina St. John's, ACC Network Extra. Furman, RIP, Denver. ESPN 3. Maryland, Notre Dame, Big Ten Network. Michigan, Siena, MGO Blue TV.
I remember that.
Mount St. Mary's, VMI, NEC Front Row. Towson, UMBC, safe mention, Towson TV. Vermont, Jacksonville, Corrigan Lacrosse, paid. Bucknell, Navy, Patriot League Network. Delaware, Villanova, Lac Sports Network, paid. Duke, Richmond, ACC Network Extra. Fairfield, Stony Brook's on Facebook Live. Harvard, Hartford, Ivy League Network. Yes, prior to 2019, when the Ivy League signed a deal with ESPN+, the Ivy League Network, you had to pay to watch Ivy League games.
Yeah.
So all Ivy League games that were not aired on ESPNU were paid. Like you had to were pay-per-view. You had to pay to watch them.
Georgetown, you had to pay per game. I remember it was like $13, $17. It was more than a ticket.
Holy Cross.
It was like Towson, Towson TV. It was like Hoyas TV, but it's so weird.
Patriot League Network, Penn State. Man, that's a good game. Ivy League Network. NEC Front Row. UMass Lowell TV. UMass Lowell Mama. All right, that's the 1 o'clock slate. Let's count it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll count a Big Ten because that's TV. 11. That's 11. Just in the 1 o'clock slate, we got 11 different streams that you would have needed to watch all these games. Folks, that's a lot. And 1, 2, 3 of them right here, you got to pay for them. Air Force BU, Mountain West Network. Hobart Binghamton, Hobart TV. Quinnipiac NJIT, Quinnipiac TV. Drexel Marist, Drexel TV. Shout out. Hopkins, Princeton, ESPN 3. Now, remember, ESPN 3 at this time is different to ESPN Plus. ESPN 3 was, you got ESPN 3 for, ESPN 3 was basically ESPN, was like extension of ESPN U at this time. ESPN 3 was just, you got ESPN 3. ESPN Plus, you had to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
So ESPN 3, Hopkins Princeton, okay, watch it. Big Ten 2018-2019 BTN Plus, as we know it, doesn't really become a thing until like 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, as you see, MGO Blue TV. Maryland, I want to say, there were some Maryland games. I was looking. I don't know when they start fully broadcast. I think there were some games still on like Terp TV. I want to say through like 2018, 2019. At least I think through like 2016, 2017. I think 2018, 2019, they might have been through like BTN to go. ACC Network Extra. Patriot League is the one that's pretty straight similar now. Patriot League Network just got subsumed into ESPN Plus. NEC Front Row has now basically carried over into ESPN Plus. America East TV is basically carried over to ESPN Plus. It's largely similar quality. Not much of a difference. CAA was on Lac Sports Network. That was money you paid for. It was an additional stream you used to have to pay for. Now you don't. Ivy League Network, an additional stream you used to have to pay for to watch. Now you don't. ESPN 3, ESPN Plus difference we mentioned. I talked about numerous games were aired by the schools themselves. Like say Hoya TV. Like we talked about, like with Denver with PioVision. This used to happen for multiple different schools.
Mm-hmm.
Like PioVision thing we do now. It was like lately it's been one school. Crap! I gotta do PioVision. This used to happen for 4 or 5 different schools on a given week, where you'd have to pay for. And our good pal Mark was pulling it up for us. The last Big 3 conference. So let's do Big 10, ACC, Ivy. That was on a school-specific stream. Safe, do you want to know what it is? you take a guess?
One more time. The first part.
The last Big Ten, ACC, Ivy League, the last game involving Big Ten, ACC, Ivy League school to air on a school-specific stream. You know what it was?
I remember there was a Hopkins TV game that was it was like a crack in the scheduling, and they just put it up. I forget who they played, but I remember
it was the 2022 Big Ten quarterfinal. No, 2021. The 2021 Big Ten quarterfinal. It was like
a big game.
Was it 22? I think it was 22. It might have been 22. It was one of those. It was a Big Ten quarterfinal against Penn State. It wasn't broadcast on.
It wasn't part of Hopkins season.
It's at home, so it's a Hopkins home game. So obviously, Hopkins home games don't air on. And ESPN wasn't. Let me see. Let me just get the exact year. 2022 Big Ten quarterfinal. Yes, after the game. Hopkins aired there on Hop TV, the Big Ten quarterfinal. They beat Penn State 16-8. And that's the only one I think of since 2019. So ESPN Plus launched April of 2018. In 2019, this gives you an idea. Like if you were on Lacrosse Internet back at that time, when Penn State was making their ascent at that time, and with Grand Ament, and they were putting up these crazy numbers and these big wins. It was a thing. It was every week was like, whoa, like what's we were doing the pod. It was a Penn State murder machine. Every week. The first 2 weeks of that season, Penn State's games literally didn't air at all because they played them in the bubble, and they didn't air the games in the bubble. Now, and still games in the bubble can be shaky, but teams will try to do it. Then Penn State didn't air their games in the bubble in 2019. So
it felt like it just grew the mystique.
Yes, it did. It's like people you're just getting word from people who are there, or just they're just tweeting out Penn State scores 25. Grand Ament 12 points.
What?
You're just it's so yeah, Mark, he did a bunch of nice research for us. Most everything in 2019 is when things largely moved to BTN Plus, and now the current state of streaming services we have. So as I just mentioned, even back in 2019. So I just mentioned 2018. It was still possible. March 2nd, 2018. I checked another old College Cross big board. Games aired on 15 different streaming services. 15. Today, Mark, he sent this in a reply to ours. The current state of this is the top 7 conferences. This current state of streaming and TV contracts. The ACC is on the ACC Network and ACC Network Extra. The Big Ten minus Hopkins is on BTN and BTN Plus. Hopkins is on ESPNU, ESPN Plus. The Ivy League, ESPNU and ESPN Plus. Big East minus Denver is on CBS Sports Network and Flow. Denver's on Midcoast Sports Plus, and then we'll count school produced. Patriot League, CBS Sports Network, ESPN Plus. A10, if you don't count Hobart, ESPN Plus. Hobart has some school produced games which are free. CAA has Lax TV, which is free, and Flow. So there's only 4. ESPN Plus has Hopkins, the Ivy League, Patriot League, A10, smaller conferences, Big Ten Plus for the Big Ten, Flow Sports, Big East, and CAA. You're only looking at, really, today, 1, 2, 3, I mean, like 3 or 4 services do you have to have now? Compared to 15 before?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it shrunk considerably compared to where it used to be. We've gone from, you've got Flow, ESPN Plus, Big Ten Plus, and, again, we'll count Denver in there with whatever they got going on. Lax
Shout out
TV.
Midco lawyers.
Yeah. There you go. We got like 5. We're down to like 10. Now, again, is the quality here on a Lax TV or on a Flow what it was on the ESPN3 stream that you watched of Hopkins Princeton in 2016? No. 100% not. Or on the ACC network extra of a Syracuse game in 2016. Whatever it might be. No. But were you watching all these games from the conferences that you were watching in 2016, 2017? I'm going to venture to say no. If you're a true diehard, maybe. Or even if you are a true diehard, I'm just asking you to think, were you truly watching as many games in 2016, 2017, 18 as you're watching now? Probably not. It may feel like you were. Maybe you were following along with the scores. But are you really watching as many games as you get to watch now?
Well, just the flexibility of going from one game to the other within the own app is you can't talk. I mean, just hit one back button on ESPN. I make fun of ESPN all the time, and I still can't get a pop-out window on my Samsung. And some ACC network extra games don't show up on my TV, but they'll show up on my – and like, don't get me started on ESPN. But having said that, even their enemies will admit it is pretty convenient being able to go from one game to the other. Just like literally just click one back button and then you can –
go ahead, sir.
No, exactly that. It's just instead of having to go to an entirely new website and, going through whatever link to get there.
And this year I saw like on the app, like I was literally able to just like scroll down like 2 clicks and they had the whole options, the games available. Instead of in the past, they usually had to like go to like Lacrosse, like pull it up. This year I looked like I just clicked down. It was like Lacrosse, men's lacrosse right there. I had all the games available. So the options are just much, much more available than they used to be. Again, the quality may seem like it's down. Yeah, but that's because we're all watching so many more games. We all get to watch games from the MAC and all these leagues. The Drexel games you get to watch now have commentators instead of doing NSA peer-ins on, people. So I get it. I think there are certainly everybody, I understand, demand more. Certainly, it's fair to, but I think that there is a feeling sometimes of, that things have gotten worse when it's a little different. The point of view has changed. The view is just a little different. And again, TV. Here's just a good comparison. This was just one year I pulled up. The 2017, there were 25 games on ESPN TV in 2017. Last year's ESPN TV schedule, we don't have ESPN TV schedule yet still. They aired 23 men's games. BTN in 2017 aired 14 men's games. 2024 or 2025 they're going to air 13. It's similar. Now you could say, hey, we want to have more. I agree. Always want to have more. That's the goal. Shoot for more. But we're not getting less. Things have not gone backwards. We've largely stayed the same. So on television, the presence has remained the same. And on streaming, the availability is immense more. So the availability to watch lacrosse overall has never been greater. That does mean with that there are some streams we got to traverse ourselves through that are pretty treacherous at times. And obviously we want better with that. But I think it's worth noting that there's never been the case where every game for lacrosse has been on TV. Early February games for lacrosse, at best case, you might have gotten one or two on television. It's always been pretty tricky. And it's just worth keeping it, I think, perspective is what I would say. But yes, I do think it's fair. If you watch that and you're like, man, this just sucked. Yeah, it wasn't great, and it did at times harm the overall viewing experience. So it was a pretty good game.
You got to take the good with the bad. I mean, the convenience of having everything like on a couple apps.
Yes, convenient.
You can't beat. I mean, it's like, I know sometimes I'm like in the car and you just see the tweets. I love the pop-out windows because I can talk, in the DMs while watching the game and stuff like that. Having a game on my TV, on my computer, on my phone. Like, we are in a golden age. And you're right, like we can make comments about the streams now, just because there's more streams that, there's just a varying quality that probably percentage-wise, they're the same percent of good streams, bad streams, and just like horrendous streams. But now there's just more of them out there. Because even people always kind of dunk on Big Ten Network. I was like, but the ESPN Plus streams, some of them are just what the schools were using previously, and maybe like even less, that they were, because like at least then back then the announcers were kind of like in the stadium. I think a good amount of these games are now, the announcers are remote, which
the remote thing's also bad. But that's
ESPN was doing that for a little while. I remember it felt like for a little while post-COVID, a good amount of their games it felt remote. Like you just kind of felt like Quint and Anish or whoever was else just they weren't in Chapel Hill, or they weren't. It felt like they were just talking from on their computer, watching it on their watching it like we were. But the end, when you think about like all the hoops you had to, and it's still some hoops now that you have to jump through, but ESPN Plus, for the most part, is a positive for the game, and being able to consolidate 4 conferences into their under their umbrella has been good for the consumer for the most part.
Yeah.
But I think I don't want to get too grandiose, but a bill of rights for lacrosse fans of like, hey, if we're going to do a stream, we're going to need to have a shot clock. That's just like, you got to have that. You couldn't watch a college basketball game now without a shot clock, right? Like,
exactly. Yes.
There's no way. It's literally like just built into the score bug. And
there's time. I'm pretty sure there's been like NCAA tournament games we've watched occasionally where the shot clocks